It is my great pleasure today to have Natalie Cutler-Welsh as our guest. Hi, Natalie.
Hello, Karen. How are you?
I am fantastic, and what great news we have that we're going to level two for our lockdown in New Zealand. Yay! So, and one of the reasons I wanted to get you on and talk about Up Your Brave is that as we go to level two, there's going to be people who are a little bit concerned, a little bit worried about having to leave their homes, go back into work, particularly teachers and students. But before we get into all of that, let me tell you a little bit about Natalie. She's the go-to girl. She talks about Up Your Brave. She's a coach. She's an impact entrepreneur. She's a mother of three. And actually, if you know me personally, I think she is more frenetic and busier than I am. So people always tell me, how do you get everything done? But I look at you, Nat, and think you do 10 times more than I ever do. So welcome to the show.
I'm not going to wear busyness as a badge of honor at all. Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here.
No, I don't like that busyness badge either. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a driven woman. What drives you, and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, okay, so people will notice straight away something about my accent. So I call myself a Kiwi. I'm a Canadian Kiwi. So born in Canada to Kiwi parents. So that's that's my story. I've actually been here in New Zealand for half my life now. So I had my half and half birthday a couple months ago, and a mother of three, like we mentioned. And I just, I'm obsessed literally with connecting people together, which is why I'm called the go-to girl. So I do know about, 3,000 or so people. I love to connect people just so that, and help people to do and be more than they ever thought possible. That really is something I've done since I was in high school. And I've just continued with that. And now, I guess my message is around confidence and resilience and visibility. I work a lot with entrepreneurs in the speaking space as well. But just for everyday people, it's like, I just want them to amplify their impact, in business or wellness or whatever is important to them.
I love those. The phrase, amplify your impact. That's just wonderful, because that's exactly what we want to do as teachers as well. We want to have an impact on those students in our classroom,
Yes.
but you can amplify it, you can make it bigger and more important and better. So I know that you have a model to explain this, Up Your Brave. So could you explain it to us, please?
Yeah, so I've got this model that I've been developing, and I feel like regardless of who I'm chatting with, I originally started out as an author actually of the parenting book. So whether I'm talking to overwhelmed moms or at the other end of the spectrum, overworked entrepreneurs, or even like teachers, like we're saying, this is still relevant. So I'll just dive real quick into the concept. So the idea really is that over the past 15 or so years that I've been working, I actually started off as an Outward Bound instructor as well. So I do personal development, and I've been noticing through my journey that people tend to be living their lives in one of four zones. So I'll briefly go into the zones. So the first zone is what I call the disconnected zone. So you're in the disconnected zone when you're literally just going through the motions of life, like normally, not in lockdown time, but normally, going to work, coming home, like cooking the dinner, doing the grocery shopping, doing the things, like doing all the things that need to be done, but you're not, like, your heart's not in it. You're not excited about it. Or maybe even in your marriage, like, doing the things, but your heart's not in it. So that's the disconnected zone. The next zone I call the should zone. I have to enunciate, or people sometimes think I'm swearing if I say it really quickly. The should zone. So we know we're in the should zone when we are driven by duty and obligation. So we are doing things because we said we would, or we think we should. So sometimes the languaging can be a real red flag here when we're saying things like should, need, or just. Those are real big indicators, like, oh, I should do this, or I need to do that. And look at the energy when I say that, right? Slumpy energy. And so if you're saying those words, or you feel like I should do this, or maybe, you're an architect and you're like, well, like, I would love to be a painter, or I would love to whatever, but I should really be responsible, and I should do this and I should do that. So we're driven by duty and obligation. That's the should zone. The next one is what I call the frustration zone. So this is the zone where instead of duty and obligation, now we're really guided by an emotion of bitterness and resentment also, almost. So we're literally like frustrated, angry, like we're not happy with how things are going. So you're in the frustration zone when it starts to actually impact your relationships, your marriage, your health quite often. But the good news about the frustration zone, and I was talking to a client the other day and she was like, I'm just so sick and tired. Like when people use words like that, oh, I'm like, oh, you're in the frustration zone, honey. And she was ready to amplify her income and her impact in business, but they don't have to be in business. It's just, if you're in that zone, like, oh my gosh, I am so sick and tired of being the one to always do the laundry and when you do that, you're like, okay, you're in the frustration zone. And the good news is now you're ready, hopefully, to strive across to the impact zone. So where you want to get to is the fourth zone I call the impact zone. And in the impact zone, you're actually doing and being and having the impact that you want, whatever that means to you. Some people like me, we want to change the world. You probably do too, Karen. Other people, like, they don't, and that's totally fine. But the impact zone is what you believe it to be. But in the middle, like in the gap between the frustration and the impact, is what I call the up your brave zone. You need to get through that. You need to up your brave, raise your resilience, call on your courage, and you need to like take that step across the gap, the cavern. It's not easy and you'll get pushback. And I can share some tips on that. But that in short is the model. And what I often say to people, listen, I don't need to know what zone you're in. I just need you to know what zone you're in. And then if I'm speaking to an audience, which I often do, I'll literally say to them, so pop your hand up if you know what zone you're in, right? Everyone puts their hand up. And then I'm like, awesome. Okay. Leave your hand up if you're in the zone you want to be in. All, well, 80%, 85, 90 sometimes % of the hands come down because most often people are not in the zone that they want to be in. And then I usually go, well, let me share some tips with you, some strategies to help you navigate across and call on you up your brave to get to whatever impact means to you. And that's always a fun discussion. So really that's the model. And I hope that maybe some of your listeners today can go, it's a reality check. Like, oh my God, I am totally in the should zone. Or wow, I am definitely cemented in the frustration zone. And yeah, you can oscillate, of course, but there'll be one zone probably where you hang out most of the time.
I really like that because as we think about level 2 and as we think about going back to work and as we think about this idea of going the new normal, then what is it we want to be like? What were we like before lockdown? Were you in any of those zones? And what do you need to do to up your brave to move into that impact zone so you can have that positive effect and affect on the people that you work with and be with every single day? So that's a really lovely idea to think about. So what are some of the strategies to be able to up our brave? I know one of them you talk about is goal setting. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a couple of specific things around, be you, feed you, and a couple of other phrases I use. But in terms of goal setting, I talk a lot about goal getting. A lot of people set goals. I'm more of an action taker. So even my tagline is up your brave, say what you want, and make it happen. That is literally what I'm trying to empower people to do, and so I feel like part of goal setting's great. Like, hey, where do I want to go? Like, how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? Like, that's awesome. But if you're not taking action, empowered, intentional action towards where you want to be or who you want to show up as, then you feel even worse because another year goes by and the same things are on the blinking list as last time. So yeah, I'm really into goal getting rather than goal. I love goal setting, but I'm into goal getting.
That's really important to be aware of, isn't it? Because as we think about this new normal and as we think about what we want our life to be like, it's like, what actions are you going to take? So it's not just setting the goals and putting the, pretty pictures on the wall of what we want to achieve, but it's actually what actions are you going to take?
And I guess the other thing there that comes up is, what are you not going to do? So I talk about, what are you going to do? What are you going to ditch? And what are you going to delegate? And, a great example, the other day, my husband's like, oh, our son, he's missed a lot of his online classes for hip hop. And he's like, I don't want to do the exam. And we're like, oh, but you signed up for it. So I said to Matt, you know what? I don't want to go back to the way we were. Like, we had this lovely 7-week break or whatever, where it's like, do we really want to be like ships in the night with hip hop and cheerleading and all the things? Or like, is this a great time to pause and reflect and to reinvent, like you said, the new normal, recreate how we want it to be going forward, possibly slower. I mean, yes, I do a lot, so naturally my kids are busy, but everything I do, I know why I do it. I have intention, and that's the difference. I think if people are busy for the sake of busy, they get frazzled, and they are in the frustration zone. Well, I live in the impact zone because I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and that's the difference. But back to the kids, I was like, this is a great time for us as a couple to really, and a family, to be like, what do we want it to look like and feel like going forward? And I'm like, my whole thing is, if you don't love it, don't do it. So I'm like, if he doesn't want to do the exam, like, honestly, I don't really care. So it's, interesting, but great time to reflect on what are our goals. And just because we said we were going to do them doesn't mean we have to if our heart is not in it anymore.
So what was it? Do it, ditch it, or delegate.
Yeah.
Nice. The 3 Ds.
3 Ds.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to ditch? And what are you going to delegate? So thank you for that. You talk about being the CEO of your life. And this is this whole idea of recreation and being able to be in control of what happens to you. Can you say more about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I say that to people, anyone who will listen to me. I'm like, you are the CEO of your own life. So a lot of that comes back to mindset. I mean, obviously in my world, I work with entrepreneurs, people who literally are the CEO of their own business, but I do believe that it applies to anybody. So quick story, my son and I, same son, we were going to the bakery, and they didn't, all the kids got something, one got a mince pie, one wanted the apple pie, whatever. And they didn't have his chicken pie. So, he got what, they said it was chicken, but when we got home, it was mince. Anyway, so I said, don't worry, bud, tomorrow we'll walk back to the bakery. Like, we got to get out of the house once a day, and, we'll get the chicken pie. So we, the day goes by, we forget to go. The next day we go to get the chicken pie. They don't have the chicken pie. And anyway, he goes, well, now my day's ruined. Because when he got the mince pie, he really let it get to him. And I was like, dude, you are the CEO. I know, Mom, of my own life. Yes. And you are the CEO of your own pie. Do not let the pie ruin your day. So we had this discussion where it's almost like a metaphor. So when things don't go as planned, like you think you ordered a butter chicken, but when you get home and take a bite, it's a mince pie. So that's what happened. And he really let it get him down. I was like, dude, you got to have dust yourself off ability to survive in this world. Like, you are the CEO of your own pie, so that's the little story. But it doesn't matter if it's a pie or whatever it is. I think if we as humans can learn how to, be the CEO of our own life and not let little knocks get us down, not soldier on. I'm not saying soldier on. I'm saying, with empowered energy and intention, go, you know what? I'm not going to let a pie ruin my day. I mean, honestly. So, really just being the CEO of your own life. There you go.
That's fantastic. And it's about focusing on the bigger picture, isn't it? And being able to focus on the bigger picture of what it is you want in your life.
Yeah. And just, hey, on that, what's interesting is a couple weeks before lockdown, I went into my local school. I was asked to come in and run a workshop. And it was a very busy morning. They said, we've got half an hour. They're going to have coffee and tea and all the things to bring all the teachers in. Lots of people signed up. It was interesting. And I said, we're going to do this gingerbread man activity. And I had them all draw a gingerbread man. That's mine. And then I said, okay, what I want you to do is coming out of the head with an arrow. What are you thinking? So I called it you 2020, the future you. How do you want to show up? What are your thoughts? And they had to write down like some of their thoughts, like, I am awesome, whatever. I said, you can put a hat on your head if you want. And then I said, great. So what is in your hand? What are you holding? What are you doing? With intention. What do you want? How do you want to show up? And they were like, oh, I'm playing sport, or I'm writing my book, or whatever. Great. What are you feeding yourself in terms of mindset, but also food? Like, what are you eating? And then we moved down, what with your feet, where are you going? Like, where are you actually heading? So it was a little bit of a fun activity. This is for the teachers, not kids, that I was doing it. But of course I said to them, you can do this with your kids. If you've got kids at home or a husband at home, you can sit around the dinner table and do this future you activity. And it's really about going, you know what? I am the CEO of my own life. Like, how do I want to show up? What am I feeding myself is like, what podcasts are you listening to? What books are you reading? Are you watching the news every night? And is it really getting you down? Because no one is making you watch the news. So it's like really choosing with intention how we spend our time and energy and what we're feeding ourselves in our mind. What are we actually saying to other people? What advice are we giving? Because that's words of wisdom that we've got. What are we eating, in our plate? Where are we going? And so that's a little fun activity. Anyone can do it anytime. And then it's really good to reflect back on and be like, oh, that's interesting. I wanted to go here and there, but I'm actually going there and there, and I'm not on path. Yeah.
You remind me that before lockdown, I had just finished Michelle Obama's book, Becoming.
Nice.
And there's a wonderful phrase in there that really struck a chord with me when her best friend was, I'm struggling to think of his name, but one of the big reverends in America, can't think of his name right now. And he always said, no one is too poor to turn the TV off for 2 hours. And I loved that. Because that's that ability to be in control, that we don't have to be doing these things that we've always done, watching the news if it's bringing us down, eating that food if it's making us feel sick. And having that control is something that as human beings, we are so lucky because we have that ability to be able to control our impulses and our habits if we stop and reflect and think. So thanks for the reminder. Tell us about, as our teachers and our students are coming back into schools from next week, what are some of the resilience strategies that you talk about? What are some of the things that can up their brave to become more resilient when they feel like they don't have maybe those strategies, or they're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, but they have to. So what are some of the ideas?
Yeah, well, something that comes to mind that I think is so relevant is often in times of pressure and stress, our strengths go into overdrive and become our weaknesses. So, this is a little bit about personal development and self-awareness, but if there's a teacher out there, let's say, who's a perfectionist, for example, and she always likes to have everything tidy and all the lessons planned and stuff, and she knows like things are really tense right now, she might go into hyperdrive, with the perfectionism, and then as a result feel like she's not good enough and she's not doing a good job and really have these high standards. So I feel like it's almost a great time to pat ourselves on the back, right? Before we walk into the school gates or whatever, and be like, I know that I have a tendency to lapse into over perfectionism. So I'm just going to like dial it back, or I'm going to call on the other parts of me, that I'm actually really a fun person. So maybe I'm going to show up a little bit more fun to kind of counteract my perfectionism. So I think that, I don't know if that is helpful for people, but if you know your tendency, and my tendency, I'm an activator. So my tendency is to make things happen and to create new things, which I did during lockdown, like a new program and a new live stream series and whatever. But I know that. So I'm like, I have to like call on the other parts of me, and try to be more present. So when I'm not doing those busy things, that I am fully present, like with my kids or having my very lovely me time or whatever it might be. So I guess the answer is really being aware of your natural tendency and the concept that your strengths in overdrive become a weakness. And when we're pressured, they do go into overdrive.
I'm probably very similar to you. I think we're very similar personalities. But yes, I'm that just get it done and get things happening too. And the challenge for me is that when I go into that overdrive of that, is that I'm trying to get everybody else to do everything. And so many balls in the air that after a while I just can't hold them anymore and things start to fall. And so it's for me actually that D word you used before, delegation, and then trust, so that I can say, hey, and that's one of the things I've been learning during lockdown, because my team isn't here physically in the office with me, and so it's like I don't know what they're doing every day, and so I'll be able to say, hey, here's what I need doing, and then checking in a couple of times a week to know, how far have you got any questions, but also stepping back and allowing. Yes. And I think for teachers too, when children have been self-directed at home, when they have been getting on with it and just doing things, and then suddenly a teacher's like, where you at, what are you doing? And over the top, some of them are just going to push back and say, whoa, I can do this, I've got this. So maybe that trust element is also going to be really important as we go into the classroom. So I often talk to teachers about being able to step back and just allow children to be able to do the learning they need to do. And so when what are control freaks, I'm a control freak, that's one of the things we need to learn. Yeah. So I know that one of the things that you talk a lot about for wellness is aromatherapy. And I know a lot of teachers use aromatherapy oils in their classrooms. So as children are coming back into the classroom and maybe a little bit reluctant, a little bit stressed, what kind of oils would you suggest?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of high emotions definitely coming in. Some kids are going to be super excited to see their friends, but anxious about the health side of it and everything in between. So yeah, I'm a massive fan of oils. Like this one here is actually called Peace. And I've got it beside my desk because I was just chatting to a woman beforehand and I said, listen, a lot of kids are going to be really anxious, about being, first of all, they've been with their parents 24/7 for 7 weeks, regardless of how old they are, it's going to feel different. And secondly, they're nervous about, germs and whatever. So this is an emotional oil, but even just smelling it or rubbing it on their neck, before they go off to school, or if they're old enough, having it in their bag, it is a tool that physically works, like scientifically, but also as a strategy so that they know that I've got my peace oil in my bag. If I'm anxious, I know that I can pull it out. I can like roll it on my hand, breathe it in, and then off I go. So I love them. Like I talk a lot about how oils are part of your tool belt, as a parent or as a teacher, it's part of your tool belt. And I was just messaging one of my friends who's also a teacher. And I was like, you got your oils ready? She's like, oh yeah. And, so we do have, On Guard oil, the protective blend, but also the emotional ones. It's going to be an interesting time and different people are going to react so differently. I'm really into personality types as well. And so I find that the expressives are going to be talking maybe more about how they feel, whereas people that aren't naturally expressive, they might not be saying much, but they're going to be feeling it. And so if we can help them with oils to process their emotions so the emotions don't process them, like just sit in their tummy and give them literally tummy ache, anxiety and stuff, then we can help them just to kind of be resilient, like you mentioned.
So if a teacher has a diffuser in their classroom, what would be like a single oil that you would suggest?
Yeah, I just put together this back to work bundle, and it has a diffuser, and it's like On Guard for sure, citrus bliss, like something happy, something, so any citruses are happiness. You've got lime, tangerine, lemon. So lemon and peppermint together are the study blend. So that's probably what I would recommend, because the lemon is uplifting and the peppermint keeps everyone alert and focused. So we're not going to have them falling asleep. Yeah, so that's probably, any of those would be really good. Yeah, otherwise just even the teachers before they go in and see all the kids, they can sanitize their hands and stuff, but there's a couple of other things that can help as well.
I've got spearmint in my office today. I just love that upliftingness and that alertness that it gives. So
what spearmint is? The oil of confident speech. So
yes.
If someone's nervous to speak their truth or to say what they want, or they're not naturally an expressive person, then spearmint actually, even, just a drop in the water or in the diffuser, can help them to like actually have the courage to say how they're feeling or how they want to feel.
That's great. Thank you. One of the other things I know you talk a lot about is the language that we use. And when I was doing my own learning this morning that I do every day, one of the ideas was to watch the language. And I'm really big on my house, even though our children don't like it. They're teenagers, about not swearing, about using positive language, about that the language we use reflects on what's going on inside us. And you talked about should before, and we don't want to keep shoulding on ourselves. So what else can you talk about around language, and how can we be aware of that language that we're using?
One of the easiest things to do is to ditch the words should, need, and just from your vocab. And you will literally need to catch yourself all the time. Like I'll be mid-text, I'll be going, yep, I can, yep, I just need to do this. And I'll like delete. And I'll change it to a more empowered work. I want to do that word. I want to do this. And then I can do that. So I catch myself on text. I catch myself writing emails. I catch myself speaking. Because empowered languaging is I'm ready or I want, whereas disempowered languaging is I need or I should. They have very different emotions to them, but honestly, just changing your vocab, it changes your energy, it changes the vibe, and then can change how people respond to you as well.
I talked to teachers about changing the word mistakes in the classroom environment. When you tell someone they've made a mistake, how you see the neurology just close. But instead use the word learning experience and say, hey, it's just an experience that we can learn from, and it opens up possibility thinking rather than, oh, I've made a mistake. It's like, oh, I've had a learning experience.
Yes.
And that word just is one that I noticed that I was using a lot in my writing. One of the strategies I got from Dr. Heidi Hayes Jacobs a few years ago was to, when you've written a blog or written an essay, is to put it into a Wordle. And so it comes up with a word cloud of all the words that you've used, and you can see the words you've used over and over again. And I used to see just really big. How? And then I'd go through my writing and realized I was writing just all the time.
Wow.
And it's interesting as I looked at my own writing, saying, do I need that word? Is it justified? Is it, or is there a different word I can use? Or most times I could just get rid of it, and the context was actually the same or even better. So the language we use, of course, is important.
Yeah. And I mean, us as busy mothers, the way that we often use it is, hey, mom, whatever, I just need to do this and I just need to do that. And it's like, hang on a second, I'm going to finish doing this and then I will come and help you with, rather than I just need to do this and I just need to do that. It is a diminishing word. It's an interesting word. Yes. So that is my little challenge, for anyone listening, is to just really try to listen intently and catch yourself when you do say the just need or the should, and replace it with something empowering.
Yes. I can see in the chat some people are going, yep, we're loving this. Erin's going, language is massive. She likes the mistakes and the learning experiences. Thanks. If you've got any questions, as the chat is actually working now, it wasn't working at the beginning. So if you've got any questions for Nat, please, as you want to up your brave as you go back to school, please put them in as we finish up in our last few minutes. But, Nike has the phrase, just do it. And I know you talk about empowered action. What is that?
Yeah, empowered action. So when you're living life in the impact zone, then you are, I say, making empowered choices and intentional actions or empowered actions. And what that means is like I want to do this, or I'm ready. So you're doing, I said before, if you don't love it, don't do it. It's like literally you are the CEO of your own life. And so how you're spending your so valuable time, energy, and money in life, right? So valuable. I said to Matt the other night, a lot of people are really thinking about like how they're spending their money at the moment. I'm thinking a lot about how I'm spending my time going forward, going, actually, do I really want to be pouring time into this, that, and the other? It's a great time to do a stock take. So what you want to do is make empowered choices about how you are going to spend your valuable time, money, and energy. And then when you do it with intention, you love it. So even though you're busy, you're not exhausted. You're not like, oh my God, you're not complaining because you're doing what you want to be doing. So it just feels completely different.
I think one of the things that I see is if you want others around you to up their brave, one of the things we have to do is do it ourselves. And these mirror neurons that we have when we are empowering, when we're taking empowered action, people around us start to do it as well. I know that as my children are now 20 and 18, I suddenly start hearing them say some of those phrases I've heard over and over again. I've said, over and over again that they've heard. And it takes a long time for it to go in. I'm starting to see, as I up my own brave in my life and try things I've never done, that I see my children doing that too. And I think that's true in a classroom. And I think teachers have probably experienced that over the last few weeks when they've suddenly had to do things I've never done before, Zoom meetings, teaching online, using platforms I've never done. And we become a model of that. And I know personally, I hope it's okay for me to say this, Natalie, your husband has obviously upped his brave as he allowed you to cut his hair recently.
Yeah. I literally groomed the dog, and then I groomed him as well.
But I'm not going to ask if there was any difference in the cutting style.
I said to him, "You were way better behaved than our dog. She was hard work."
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's all right.
Way better.
I'm just wondering if Erin's got a question here. How do we ask other people to empower and do the same? So
I think you hit the nail on the head, Karen, just there, because I often talk about your personal impact factor. So when you are in the impact zone, when you're doing, the things you love doing, and you're filling your own cup because you're living your life guided by empowered actions and intentional choices rather than, bitterness and resentment or obligation and duty in the other zones, you naturally, because your personal impact factor rises, like your vibration, your energy, and what you're putting out to the world. And it just has this trickle down effect where other people start doing, they won't do the same things you're doing, but hopefully they'll do what fills their cup and make their own empowered choices and feel good about it. So it is an interesting time to reflect on all this stuff. I have to do a massive shout out for the teachers, like not just the whole COVID thing, but like being at home and trying to do the home learning. Like I posted on Facebook the other day going, oh my God, this is not my strength. Like, I am happy to play, battleships and take the kids up to the bakery, but like trying to get them to do their lessons, I'm like, oh my gosh. So shout out to the teachers.
I think it's definitely opened a lot of parents' eyes to what teachers really do every day. And they're not doing it with 3 children, they're doing it with 30 children. Yeah. And I think we've known, but we've never actually viscerally experienced it as parents to know what teachers work with every single day. So thank you for that. As we finish up, I think that this idea that we are the mirror and what we do, and you're talking about your personal impact. I know that viewers will be like rolling their eyes because I say this a lot. But when I started my morning routine of my victory hour every morning, then it totally changed the impact of my everything in my life, my relationship with myself, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my children, the impact I was having in my work, my speaking, everything just grew because I took responsibility, was that CEO of my life, and I do that morning routine every single morning.
And you've called it something cool, the victory hour?
Victory hour. So that's not my words, that's from Robin Sharma. And look, it's called the 5 a.m. club. You don't have to do it at 5 a.m. But it is the ability to be able to, I do 20 minutes of exercise, huffy puffy stuff first thing in the morning, 20 minutes of reflection, visualization, meditation, prayer, whatever it is that is going to help you to be the best you can be, and then 20 minutes of learning every single day. So that has really grown my impact, and I suggest it will for others as well as they up their brave.
Yeah, and good on you, because you possibly you made the empowered choice to do that, right? Whereas if someone was like, oh, I really should do that 20 minute thing, well, it's like they're not going to unless they choose and they decide. So you made a choice, and now you're seeing the results, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And, it's something you have to do every single day, because over the weekend I made hot cross buns because I wasn't here at Easter. I was in lockdown somewhere else, and we missed out on the Easter treat. So I made hot cross buns, and I don't eat bread, but I love hot cross buns. And so, that sugar addiction of yeast and sugar in my body. And then yesterday it was one of our girls' 18th birthdays. And so she had chocolate galore and cake, and I ate all that. And last night I was just feeling really blah and yuck. And I'm like, today I'm back on track. Today I'm making that decision.
Yeah. Today you come back to your gingerbread man and you go, what am I feeding myself, Karen?
Yep. And I was offered chocolate today, and I'm really proud to say I was able to say, no, I don't want it today. I need to put myself back on track because I felt awful. And I don't want to feel like that. So it's about that impact that we have on ourselves that reflects on everyone else. Any final words you want to share with us, Natalie?
Well, no, not really. I mean, the main thing that I say often, is up your brave, say what you want and make it happen. And so that's one thing that we touched on, but it's the say what you want piece. So I'll just finish with that. Is I feel like, I honestly feel like if everyone just said what they want, like the world would be a better place. Let me just rephrase that. I don't mean just say whatever you want and start swearing. I mean, say what you genuinely desire. And so I find what happens is that especially people that are more amiable, even in the teacher's world, let's say there might be teachers that are more amiable and other ones that are more analytic. And so the amiables often find that they get generosity burnout. Like they're always saying yes to everything and everyone. And as a result, they're like totally in the should zone and they're exhausted and whatever. So I feel like saying what you want goes, hang on a second. Let me just, think about forces you to think about what I want, because often we're too busy to think about what we want. And then just actually when you say it. So the example that I often give is in my house, it's become a culture. We say to each other, what do you want? Okay. So if someone's like, oh my gosh, it's raining outside, and like, oh, someone left the scooter on the lawn. It's like, hang on, what do you want? I don't want the scooter left in the rain. Awesome. Now we can fix it. Rather than, because I always say complaining, naming, shaming, blaming, and complaining, it's just like they're not productive. They're not empowered. So if we say what we want, so in our family, it's like if someone's having a moan or even just like ranting and rambling, you're like, hang on, what do you want? And then it makes them go, and they answer the question, and then we can move towards a solution. Like it's brilliant, and no one gets offended because it's not rude. Like, what do you want? It's what is it that you want, or say what you want. Magic words, total game changer in a marriage, total game changer in a family, but hopefully also people can take that into the workplace where they can sometimes say to someone, hey, hang on a second, what is it that you want? I just want someone to photocopy these things for me. Done. Just really say what you want. So up your brave, say what you want, and then make it happen.
Thank you so much. You remind me of a final story of years ago. I had the pleasure of working and being in a workshop with John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus. And he talked about that women often don't say what we want. And he tells this story of his wife leaving. His wife was feeling like she hadn't had any flowers for a very long time. So she left a vase at the top of the stairs. He walks past the vase and goes, oh, there's a vase at the top of the stairs, and goes to work. He comes the next morning, he's about to go to work. He gets to the top of the stairs and there are 2 vases. And he thinks, there are 2 vases at the top of the stairs, and he goes to work. The third morning, he walks past and there are now 3, as you can guess, 3 vases at the top of the stairs. And he calls out to his wife, honey, do you want me to throw these out? And I've never forgotten that. He said, she just needed to say, I'd like you to buy me flowers today. Yes. I haven't had flowers for a long time. And I know there are some people who roll their eyes and go, they should just do that. And actually, they're not mind readers. And people around us, my children, my husband, we're not mind readers. And so being able to say what you want and be able to be clear on that is a wonderful strategy. So thank you so much, Nat, for being able to share with those ideas so our teachers and our people can up their brave as they go back to school, as they go back to, more of a new normal life, and share some of those ideas with others, but also empower themselves with them as well. So thank you so much.
No worries. Fun.
And for the viewers, this is the last of season 1 of Spectrum TV, and we will be back probably term 3 with a whole new schedule and a whole nother new focus, and a whole nother studio actually with lighting, which is still coming, and we'll be able to do some new things. So if there's anything you'd like us to cover, anything you would like, people you would like me to interview, let me know. But before that, in July, on the 17th to 19th of July, Spectrum is holding our Teachers Matter online summit. We have 24 incredible speakers who are going to be speaking at that. And these, I'm proud to say, so many of my friends, Dr. Art Costa, Bena Kallick, Heidi Hayes-Jacobs, we've got Lauren Parsons, which I know, Nat, you've got on one of your shows from New Zealand. I've got, there's 24 of them. I can't even mention them all. But look out in your emails, and if you don't get the emails from me, let me know, and I can make sure you get those, or the details will be on my Facebook page. So we'll be launching it hopefully within the next week. So please, everybody, stay safe and keep learning, and have a great time going back to school next week. Bye.
See you.